All right, I think we're slowing down on folks who are entering the WebEx this morning, so I think we'll get started to respect everybody's time. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marlena Diaz. I am one of the deputy directors here at COELIG, responsible for this massive training mandate. I'm joined by my fellow teammates. We also want to welcome a new person on board. We onboarded a new trainer, Becky, so we're excited to have her on the team. She's learning not only about the presentation and the training, but we also have her in the statewide ethics training application. So I'm sure you'll get to know her in the coming months, and we're excited to have her on board. Some of you may know Megan Hennigan. She's our Deputy Director of Education. She'll be joining us as well, along with Tammy and Brianna, our training associates, who many of your employees have gotten very familiar with, and you've gotten familiar with too in the last couple of months. So welcome. We're very excited to start this new initiative. We're calling it our Lunch and Learns. This is our first one. It's called the Back to Basics. So because Q4 2024 was probably a rough ride for a lot of us when it came to the training mandate, we thought it would be really helpful collectively to take some time and remind everyone of just the basic overview, the high-level requirements when it comes to the training initiative. For those of you who don't have access to our statewide ethics training application, but were able to enroll in today's training, we highly encourage you to reach out to us after this training. Send us an email to our shared inbox. One of our training associates will put that in the chat. That way we can provide you with access. We will be recording today's session because we're not going to be displaying any employee information with regards to the application. We'll be doing that next time around for our next Lunch and Learn, where we'll be taking a super deep dive into the application. So for those of you who are either brand new to it, or there are certain situations or scenarios that you come up with that you're not comfortable with and you need more clarity on, that's what we'll be focusing on for our next Lunch and Learn. And this version will be available. We'll provide the slide deck as well as a recorded version on our SharePoint. So if you don't have access to our SharePoint, send us an email to that COELIG shared inbox, and one of our training associates will give you access to our SharePoint as well. Okay? All right, let's get started.
Perfect. Thank you, Marlena. So the first thing we're going to do this morning, we're going to start with a poll question. And today's polling question is just simply, are you a new ethics officer or an agency user? So I did just go ahead and open that polling panel for you all. I do see a ton of familiar names. I'm familiar with you all. I've been here for quite some time, but I do see some new names in there as well. But this will just help us gauge how in depth we should go with our today's presentation as well as future presentations.
What if you're not sure?
Give me one moment, Madge. I'm just trying to see who asked that question.
Oh, it's me. Oh, I should raise my hand or something.
Yes,
it's Donna.
Let's see. Is that Donna Canfield?
LaForest.
LaForest, let's see. Well, that's no worries. If you are unsure, can you just send us an email to coeligeducation@ethics.ny.gov and we can look further into that for you?
Yeah, I think I'm an ethics officer, but I'm not sure.
Okay, give me one moment.
Donna, what agency are you from?
OCM.
And we have her as a training compliance officer.
Yes, you are an AGU, an agency user. Yes.
There we go.
Oh, I'm an agency user.
Correct.
Okay.
But is the question asking if we're new to it? Because I selected no, because I'm not new to it. I did it all last year.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we are just waiting for about 5 of you to get in and submit your answer. No worries. And then we will close that polling panel and move into the topics that we'll be covering this morning. All right, about 20 seconds remaining on that polling question.
We appreciate everyone who's taken the time to respond to our polling question. For those of you who haven't taken one of our COELIG Live CETCs, this also gives you a great opportunity to see what your employees are doing when they register and complete live training with us. We do offer several opportunities for your employees to engage with us via polling questions. Based off of today's results, we're looking at approximately 35% of you on the call are brand new, which is letting us know that maybe we need to do another role of the ethics officer for those of you who are brand new. So we appreciate you taking the time. For those of you who are our seasoned ethics officers, or those of you who have been using SETA for the last year, we appreciate your patience with us as we continue to improve on that system. So thank you for taking the time to give us a little bit more information as to what we need to focus on in the coming year.
Yes, thank you, Marlena. Okay, so the basics that we will be covering this morning in our Lunch and Learn, it's more of a brunch and learn this morning, but we'll be going over the statewide ethics training requirement. We'll get into the role and responsibility of the ethics officer as well as the agency user. We'll give you some information about your monthly training and tracking. And then we will close. Hopefully we'll have enough time to have an open discussion and a Q&A for you all. As Marlena did mention previously, this slide deck will be available after today's training as a resource. So again, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We're going to quickly start and review with that ethics training requirement. So who needs to take ethics training? Executive Law 94, that does mandate that all state officers and employees attend ethics training every year. And this includes both full-time and part-time employees, seasonal employees, FDS and non-FDS employees, because previously the training requirement was only attached to those financial disclosure statement filers. It includes both paid and unpaid members of boards and per diem employees, faculty and staff of SUNY and CUNY campuses, as well as paid student interns. So generally, student interns who are not paid by the state, they're not mandated to take the training, but each agency, they do have the discretion to do so. Student interns who are paid should be treated like any other employee and take ethics training. So we do have 2 ethics training courses. We have that CETC as well as the ethics refresher. That is an online course. Now I will start by mentioning that there is no substitution for live training. That is a really important thing. Live training, that does provide participants with the opportunity to ask questions in real time and also to receive guidance on some important issues that they may have. So new hires, they're required to complete that live CETC within 90 days of appointment or employment. The CETC, it also can be completed every year in lieu of that online ethics refresher course. Now, in regards to this online ethics refresher course, the law, it does also require that state employees complete this class in the years where they're not attending that live class. This course, it is hosted in the statewide learning management system for most executive branch employees. And we will go a little more into detail about these 2 classes, where they are hosted and how you can register for these classes later in today's presentation. So with that being said, we're going to move into the agency role and responsibilities. So I am going to go ahead and pass this over to Megan.
Good morning, everybody. Let me make sure my camera is where it needs to be. So as Marlena and Brianna had already said, I see a lot of familiar faces who I call our frequent flyer ethics officers, agency users, but there are quite a few of you who are brand new. And so, yeah, really good to know that, and call us for help, because there's a lot you're going to need to know that we're going to dive into today. All right. So here's one of our first basic roles. Number one, and especially important for you who are new, agencies should absolutely be delivering regular ethics training. Most of you already know this, but we are a tiny agency, 65 people, I think, and only 4 or 5 of us in the training unit. We have greatly ramped up our training efforts. I think we alone trained about 18,000 people last year, and we're on schedule to do probably more than that. But really important for you all to partner with us and schedule periodic ethics training within your agency. And again, if you're brand new and don't know about this, all available on SharePoint, many different presentations we have. We have several versions of the CETC, including one that is just specific for SUNY and CUNY, because it goes into their particular enforcement action. So that's a great option to have on there. A bunch of, I think our plain language guide is on there, lots of different stuff. So that is a great, excuse me for just a second. I'm back. Okay. I was looking at something on Teams. All right. So lots of different great things on there for you to look for. And if you need access to that, contact us afterwards. Absolutely. All right. So accessibility and language access. We're jumping on board with all the things we need to do. So we are in the process of having the CETC PowerPoint and the trainer notes, the plain language guide translated to those 12 different languages you see on the slide here. Also, requests for accommodation. If you have, employee is going to sign up for one of our training sessions, give us at least a month in advance to get something set up, including ASL interpreter, live translation services, and captioning, all those good things. All right, rule number 2, inform your employees. And there's lots of different information as an ethics officer or an agency user that you should be regularly pushing out to your employees. First of all, really important to communicate any changes that you might hear from us on the website or in periodic e-blasts that we might send to you regarding changes in the laws or ethics policies. Doesn't happen very often, but if it does, make sure you're sending those out to all of your employees. Of course, about the mandatory ethics training requirement too, and that 12/31 yearly due date. So we're making a push, hopefully, to get the entire state workforce trained this year. So we need assistance in that, and make sure that you're communicating regarding our sessions as well as your own. A lot of you already know this. We get lots of questions about who is my ethics officer in our own training. So we put this handy dandy chart on our website, and if you need to look at it, it's under the education tab, info for New York State employees. So if there's anything on there that you need to change, let us know. But your names, your ethics officer names are up there now. So good to know that, and inform them about overdue training as well. So lots of information to give them periodically. Rule number 3, maintaining ethics records. We're going to do a deeper dive into parts of this today, later on in the presentation, but you are responsible for maintaining your employees' training records in our application. And as I said, the second half of that is going to go into how exactly, how to do that. COELIG administration. So our responsibility is to administer this ongoing program, but if employee records aren't in there, it's not going, how do I say this? We need you to regularly update your information there. Be diligent in updating your employee information regarding having your agency profiles reconciled, up to date with your employee rosters and training dates. Again, we'll go more into this in a few minutes. Reporting obligations. I think some of you, hopefully not all of you, hear from me every once in a while because we have agencies who are regularly, unfortunately, late in submitting monthly reporting aggregate stats. We are still requiring that. And so I do follow-up emails every once in a while, but it's just a reminder that we need those aggregate stats every month still. We report those during our commission meetings. And then we also have quarterly reporting that's required by statute. And that goes to the chamber and the legislature. And we're required to report who's delinquent and not giving us those stats. So I know a lot of you already do that and are great, but if you're not aware of it, make sure you're getting those in to us. Okay. Now, providing advice and guidance. As an ethics officer, not so much agency user, but as an ethics officer, most of you know what all these other roles are. And we just had an ethics forum a few months ago about the other responsibilities. And so I'm just going to briefly mention them again, but there are certain roles with regards to financial disclosure, outside activity review and approval, honorarium, official activity expense payments or travel reimbursement. There are certain rules with regards to, for example, if one of your employees is attending a widely attended event, you have to look into that for them. And most importantly, giving advice and guidance on the ethics laws. When your employees are coming to our training, we say repeatedly, and we joke about it, we say, if you're not dreaming about the words ethics officer after this training, I would be very surprised, because we are telling them that you are the first stop, because all of you know your own agency's ethics policies that could be stricter than ours. So important to make sure that your employees know who you are, and that that you are also there for advice and guidance. And I believe, is it Tammy that's coming up next for this?
Marlena's up next.
Marlena.
I think it might be me.
Okay.
All right, so let's get back to it. Sorry, I was all in the chat. I was like busy typing with all the questions, and all of a sudden I heard my name. All right, so let's get started on this. So we're going to begin with our monthly training and tracking, which I know can be a bit of confusion for most people, and I get it. We're still working on, a lot of the application as it is. If someone could advance the slide for me, my thing is not working right now. Oh, never mind, got it. All right, so what do you need to do in setup on a monthly basis? So we put together this handy monthly reporting checklist, because we consistently seem to be getting very similar questions related to this. So we wanted to take some time and be able to remind everyone what really they should be doing on a monthly basis when it comes to the statewide ethics training application. You'll hear me say SETA, and that's what I mean by that. So you need to submit your monthly aggregate statistics in SETA every single month. I think that's what Megan was touching upon. That for those of you who may be a little bit overdue in that, that's when you'll hear from her. But it's really important that you continue to submit your monthly aggregate statistics, because we understand that life happens, and that generally sometimes your employee data isn't up to date. So we utilize the monthly aggregate stats as a way of being able to determine how well or how not well things are going within your agency. We're also required to submit monthly snapshots during our monthly commission meetings as well. So what else should you be doing every month? So aside from submitting your monthly aggregate statistics, and that's always due, by the way, on the 15th of the month, okay? So for March 15th, right, you would need to have submitted your February 2025 monthly stats, and we'll get into that a little bit later. You should also be reviewing your agency users. We notice commonly that when we send out any kind of mass communication, using our agency user list, we generally get at least around a dozen every time emails from folks letting us know that individuals should be removed from their agency. So an agency user, for those of you who are brand new, basically are the individuals that you designate, that you authorize should have access to your agency profiles with regards to maintaining and updating training information. That being said, you should be updating your employee email addresses as well as your employee training records, okay? We noticed in 2024 that there were hundreds of employees that had taken 2 trainings in a single month. In a single year, excuse me. And that's why it's really important for you folks to be utilizing our training and tracking so that you can avoid those situations, right? It gives you more information in terms of who's due, who's completed for the calendar year, and who I need to be focusing on. Also, it also provides you information as to who your new hires are, which we'll get into that a little bit later. So anybody that's brand new to the state, they're automatically assigned a 90-day due date in SETA. So it's important that you're looking at that on a monthly basis, because we've noticed that, some agencies can have, a dozen, 2 dozen, hundreds of employees that are due within a given month, okay? You should, again, review your upcoming due dates. That's what I was touching upon. And you should be scheduling your ethics training at your agency or communicating with your employees, as Megan mentioned, so that they can self-enroll and attend training with COELIG. We noticed that our enrollment numbers have decreased since Q4. So we're going to consistently be encouraging everybody to make sure that we're not waiting until Q4 to enroll our employees and taking advantage of our slower period right now. So to recap, every single month, before the 15th of the month, you should be submitting your monthly aggregate stats in SETA. You should be reviewing who has access to your agency profile, making sure that each agency does have an ethics officer assigned to them. That's a minimum requirement there, making sure that if you want to add additional folks to your profile, whether that be a training compliance officer, HR folks, let us know. You do have the ability to remove those people from your agency as well. We can show you how to do that. Updating your employee email addresses, if you need to do that, contact us. We do have a special spreadsheet that we can give you to kind of streamline that. Update your employee training records, and review consistently who's upcoming. We have thousands of employees that are due that are due between January and April of this year. So take a look at that. So how to submit your monthly training information. This is something that we get questions about all of the time. We'll take a deeper dive into this when we actually do our next Lunch and Learn, when we take a look into SETA. But to give you a high-level overview, you do this right in SETA. It takes 5 minutes. You can see that you can just click on that Submit Monthly Training Information on that black header bar. You select the reporting period. So as an example, you would select 2025, you would select February, you enter in your agency name. So for total number of employees, so for those of you who have employee data already in the application, in the profile, there is an area where it tells you exactly the number of active employees at your agency. You would enter that there. So for number 2, we get a lot of questions on that. Number of live CETC sessions conducted. So this is the number of sessions that you yourself conduct at your agency, not the number of sessions that we do. So if your employees take training with us and you've done 0 training for that month, you would enter 0 in here, okay? And you would just only inform us of the number of folks that completed training in your agency. So to recap on that, number 2, number of live CETC sessions is the number of sessions that you conduct at your agency, okay? Number that completed the live CETC, for those of you who have your employee data already in the application, we can show you ways for the 2025 calendar year, how you can export that information and be able to provide that information in that box. The number that completed the on-demand CETC, that's number 4. For those of you who are brand new, if you have access to the statewide learning management system and your employees are taking our COELIG on-demand in SLIMs, I generally upload that information at least twice a month now, okay? So you should be able to go into your agency profile and get that information too. Number 5 is totaled for you. You don't have to enter anything in there. So anything that you enter in number 3 and 4 automatically gets summed up in 5. It generally takes a couple of minutes. If you have questions on it, we'll cover it. You can always reach out to me. I'll walk you through it. It takes a couple of minutes. All right, so for those of you who are paid by, so you don't work for OSC, okay, but you are paid by OSC. So we just wanted to give you some high-level general information and limitations here. So the employee data that we receive from OSC is refreshed the first week of every single month. Our ITS team, they receive the file on the 1st, and generally a couple of days later, we authorize that file to be refreshed, okay? So what does that actually mean? It means that anybody that has left your agency, transferred, or is on any type of leave gets removed, and anybody that was recently hired gets added in. There are a couple of caveats to that. I'll get into that in a second. So what you should not be doing, okay, do not mark any of your employees inactive ever in the system. I know that you want to, but it's just going to create problems for you and for us, because you really want to make sure that these people are being removed from your profile, because if you may mark them inactive, let's say right now, let's say you have 10 people who have retired and left state service, who were due to take training, and unfortunately for whatever reason, they weren't trained, and now you're looking at these folks who are overdue, who are delinquent, they're showing up on your list. You don't like seeing that, so you're going to go in there and you're going to mark them inactive, right? That's not what you want to do. Because if it's not handled on the OSC side, okay, on the payroll side, they're just going to show back up again. All right, so we want to make sure that both you know and we know what's going on, so that if it is a payroll issue, then we can contact OSC and reconcile it on the OSC side. So all of those types of employee transactions need to be reconciled by OSC first, whether that's new hires, transfers, leaving state service. I will say that generally it can take up to 3 months. I know that's frustrating, but it can take up to 3 months. And you may be asking yourself, well, why are you using the OSC file? Well, the OSC file provides us with over 260,000 employee names and employee records, and it's the only way that we have to be able to do what executive law is asking us to do with regards to assigning a 90-day due date for the new hires. It's the only way we're able to do that, and to do that effectively and accurately, okay? So the OSC file does not contain email addresses. That's why we consistently ask you to give us that information. It only provides us with the employee ID number, the agency that the employees are affiliated with, and their first and last name, okay? That's all it gives us. So when we consistently ask you to update your email addresses, it's because that file does not contain that. Unfortunately, the state doesn't have a universal email file that we can just upload. We'd love it if they did. Unfortunately, they do not. A COELIG issue versus an OSC payroll issue. So as I mentioned, it can take up to 3 months for employees, for new hires to either show up on your agency profile or be removed, okay, and accurately reflected in SETA. We call it the golden rule, okay? So the golden record needs to live with OSC. So if there are issues and you need folks to come off, it needs to be handled on the OSC file, okay? And also another payroll issue that we see a lot, and we'll get into this a little bit more, are employees that are coming on and off of payrolls consistently. And I'll get into what that kind of looks like in the system and how the rules are currently built in the system to address this issue. We see this a lot with our state university and city university faculty and academics who may come on and off of payroll. So we'll get into that a little bit more. All right, scenario 1. So what are the OSC limitations? I think it's important for folks to understand how this works so that we can start thinking about, are there any alternate ways that maybe we need to contact OSC to figure out how we can accommodate these special situations? So this is how SETA is currently coded, okay? So in this scenario, you are on the payroll February of this year. So for intensive, you're a new hire, okay? You take training the following month, and then for whatever reason, you're off of the payroll, okay? Maybe you don't want to teach the fall, so you're off of the payroll. But then you end up coming back on, all right, in the fall, all right? So because you took training and because you came on and off of the payroll within the same calendar year, your training date's going to be maintained in SETA, okay? You're not going to be treated as a new employee again when you were reactivated, so when you came back on the payroll in September. Now, this only applies for those situations where folks are coming on and off of the payroll within the same calendar year, okay? So I came on sometime in 2025. I took training sometime in 2025. I came off of the payroll, and then I returned back to state service for whatever reason. Okay, you're not going to be treated as a new hire, which means you're not going to be given a 90-day due date to complete live training when you're back on the payroll. Okay, so that's scenario one. I come on and off, but I took training. That training record is maintained. You're compliant for that year. In contrast, scenario two is I come on the payroll and I don't take training, okay? Life happens, I get busy, I have other priorities, I wasn't able to get trained, and I come off of the payroll in the same calendar year, okay? Now I'm reactivated. I come back, I'm gonna teach the fall session as an example. You're gonna be given a 90-day new hire status, okay? So if you were trained, you were still compliant for that calendar year. You're all set. If you weren't trained and you consistently come on and off a payroll, you're going to be given a 90-day due date every single time. So just be aware of that. And we'll get into that more when we do our SETA deep dive, what that looks like, how you can check for that, and how you can inform us so that we can help you reconcile it if that needs to happen, okay? So your outlier checklist, we kind of went through some do's and don'ts when it comes to folks who are paid by OSC. I know it's tempting. Don't mark your folks inactive, okay? So what to do if you're an outlier, which means you're not paid by OSC, which means that you are providing us either on a monthly or quarterly basis an updated spreadsheet of your employees, okay? So this is not happening automatically. You need to provide it to us, all right? So number one, provide us your employee HR roster. So your HR roster needs to include all of your active employees every single time. So the way that the upload feature works in SETA is that if you have 100 employees, okay, at your organization, and we upload that information, all 100 employees will appear, okay? Let's say the next month you get 5 new employees, and you send us a spreadsheet of just 5 folks, and we attempt to upload that, okay, you're only gonna see 5 folks in your agency profile, okay? The 95 get removed, so we don't want that to happen, all right? So, you know, reach out to us, contact us, but when you are updating your employee HR roster, it needs to include everyone who's currently active, just not your new people. The only thing you're indicating for new people is their hire date so that we can assign them that 90-day due date. That's it, okay? In contrast, because we don't know who comes on and off of a payroll, you can mark your folks inactive, all right? And we can show you how to do that. We'll walk you through that either in our next session or we can do an outreach call. We do them all the time. You cannot upload any HR data yourself for your own good, okay? Because we want to avoid the situations that we had early on where folks were uploading their employee data themselves and they were wiping out their whole roster, right? And only their new hires were appearing in the agency profile. So we took away that ability. So for those of you who have rosters that you need us to upload, email it to our COELIG shared inbox. We'll be happy to coordinate that with you. We'll let you know when it's been uploaded, if there's any issues, etc. So no roster makes it harder for you and us to track. A lot of organizations, a lot of state agencies who are outliers, your employees are actively taking training with us. every single week, okay? It's very difficult for you to know who's completed training if your employee data doesn't live in the system, all right? So we really encourage you this year to provide us with that information. We'll be doing a huge outreach project within the next couple of weeks, months. We're hoping into the summer, just kind of giving everyone the opportunity to get their employee data in there because it's becoming very cumbersome for a lot of employees, agencies who have massive numbers of employees on their outlier side who aren't able to track and see who's completed. Same thing here, you need to update your email addresses if you have your employee data in there. If you view your current list of agency users, you always want to make sure that the folks that you want access to that data have access to that data, and submit your monthly aggregate stats, even if no training was conducted. So that's also a point for our OSC folks as well. So even if you conducted no training, you still need to submit your monthly aggregate stats, otherwise you'll hear from Megan, okay? Annalise, the template for the HR roster is in the upload section. You can reach out to me or we'll record this and we're happy to provide you with that HR roster. So anyone that needs the HR roster, let us know in the chat or just email us at COELIG shared inbox and we'll get that to you. All right, so when it comes to providing folks with access to your agency profile, there's 3 different roles that you can assign. Every single agency should have at least an ethics officer assigned. This is really important, as Megan showed you, because we consistently get questions from employees when we refer employees and say, well, maybe you need to reach out to your ethics officer for advice on guidance on your specific situation because the rules may be stricter at your agency than what the law provides. A lot of employees, every single training, have no idea who their ethics officer is, okay? So circling back to Megan's point, it's really important that you are communicating to your employees who you are, what your role is, and what you're able to do with regard to advice and guidance, okay? So every single profile, agency profile in SETA should have at least one ethics officer listed, okay? And I'm not gonna go through all of the definitions, they're up here for you. I will say though that even if you are a contact versus a training compliance officer, you can do everything in the system that an ethics officer has. So the permissions and the roles, they're all exactly the same. We just need to know who you are within the agency, okay? Yes, Deborah, everyone FDS and non-FDS need to be included in the submission. All right, and now we're gonna get ready for another poll time. So I guess I'll get started on this. Are you using SLMS, so SLIMS, the Statewide Learning Management System, to track your live CETC ethics training requirement? This is really important. We want to know, and we want to know for several reasons. We learned when we sent the first batch of emails to employees that were overdue on their training, we received a lot of email communication back from employees and from our agency users, whether you were a training compliance officer, ethics officer, or contact, informing us that you were tracking your live CETC training in SLIMS. However, that completion information wasn't recorded, okay, in SETA. You know, we like to say if it's not in SETA, it doesn't count because it's the only mechanism we have to be able to ensure that things are getting done, okay? So if you are using SLIMS to track your live CETC ethics training requirement, please email us because we would love to be able to coordinate with SLIMS and create a custom report that meets the requirements of our application. That way we can streamline your live completion dates into the system, okay? So reach out to us, let's coordinate this. We want to take away some of the administration side of it, but we need to make sure that if you're using SETA to track your live training, SLIMS, that that information is reflected in SETA, okay? And let's see, how are the numbers looking? So we have quite a few of you who are using SLIMS to track your live CETC training. So it's really important that you reach out to us. Let's coordinate that. I was able to have folks at SLIMS create a custom report for the on-demand, that includes the employee ID number, first name, last name, and the completion information. That way it's a lot easier for me to upload all of the employee data for folks who complete the on-demand. So I'd love to be able to give you the tools, for us to have the tools to be able to do that for your live training, make it a lot easier for everyone involved.
Sloan, or Marlena, I'm going to jump in just real quick and answer Sloan's question. Sloan, it's generally executive agencies that have access to SLMS. I've talked to Kara Palumbo, who's like the, wait, are you, remind me where you're from, Sloan, if you just want to unmute yourself for a second.
I'm from Baruch CUNY. So I don't think we have access. I keep
No, you
getting
don't.
the acronyms mixed up, sorry.
Yeah. I just, so it's, you know, it's mostly executive agencies. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thanks, Marlena.
No problem. And actually, we are in tandem to the ethics officer list that we have on our website. We're probably, I want to say, a week away from uploading a different list on our website that will help not only you, but your employees know who has access to the statewide learning management system. So we're at the very end of that project, so we should hopefully be posting that probably next week, okay? We'll have that available on the website as well. All right, and just thank you to everybody who was able to respond to the poll. We'll take a look at that later on, and we want to do some outreach with regards to that, because let's streamline the administration as much as we can. We're handling it on the on-demand SLIM side. Let's work on doing that for the live as well, okay? All right, so we're going to continue on our journey here with SETA tracking. So what training is due when? All right, we're going to get into a little bit more as to the current training schedule, okay? So for new employees, we'll just focus on 2025. For new employees, you have to take live training. That's it. It's the end of the road. You have no other option. Live training within 90 days, okay? Existing employees. So this depends on what you took the previous year, okay? So if you took the on-demand and SLIMs, or if you're one of the few agencies who have your own learning management system and you utilize one of our packages. So if you took the on-demand in 2024, you're required to take live CETC training by 12/31 of this year, okay? And for those of you who are new, every employee who's existing will always have a December 31st due date to complete training. It's one training per year, okay? So if you completed live training last year, all right, you need to take the on-demand ethics training this year. Now, some agencies do prefer just to do live training every single year. That's an option for you. If you just want to do live training every single year, you can do that. The only thing that I will say, though, is that when you update that information in SETA, you just want to make sure that you're indicating that the class that they took was the live CETC. And I'll show you what that looks like in the next couple of slides. So let's say you have not taken training at all. So you have a bunch of employees who've been with us through the mandate since July 2022, when this mandate came into existence. They need to take live training, okay, this year. So for 2025, if they're brand new, live training, no exceptions, okay? If they took live training last year, they can take the on-demand or a live training this year, okay? So that's kind of how that goes. And then it just keeps rotating, right? So in SETA, and I can show you what that looks like, it just keeps rotating. So if you mark somebody completed for live training, it's automatically going to assign them that they need to take the ethics refresher the following year. But you can notate in SETA which class they took. You can change that. Overdue training, we get this a lot. So we see that there's still thousands of employees who are overdue for the 2024 requirement, okay? So it's one training per year, okay? So we have a lot of folks who were given that 12/31/2024 due date who are still overdue, okay? And who took training with us, let's say, yesterday. So what does that mean? that means that they satisfied their 2024 requirement. It doesn't mean that they're compliant for 2025, and I know that that creates a lot of confusion sometimes. We are going to be sending out, we're going to start off doing these tips and tricks where we're going to send you just small little snippets via email, just to remind you of certain things. And the first one that we're working on is the overdue training, okay? So completing an overdue training for the 2024 calendar year and 2025 does not satisfy both 2024 and 2025, okay? You will be required to take 2 courses in 2025, so you really don't want your employees to fall behind, okay? And so what does that look like in the system? That's the screenshot below. As you can see, somebody needed to take training, and then now they're marked as being completed late, okay? And so who can see that information? It's only us, and it's only anyone that you have listed in your agency profile, right, as an authorized user, as an agency user, okay? Those are the only people that can see that. If you have questions on that, reach out to us. We'll get more into it when we do our SETA deep dive, all right? So for those, we get this question all the time. So for those employees who are overdue, who are still overdue for the 2024 requirement, I get emails all the time asking me, well, in 2024, they took the on-demand, okay, but it says they're due for the CETC. What do I do? If you see CETC due 12/31/2024, it's just a default training class. You can change that and say that they took the ethics refresher and mark them completed, okay? Anyone that does not have a due date of 12/31 is a new hire, and we can show you how to look at that and how to identify and recognize folks who are brand new. But the best way of doing that is if they have a due date outside of 12/31, for our purposes, they're new, okay? So in the bottom screenshot, you can see that this person is due for the comprehensive ethics training course on 12/31/2024. If they took the on-demand, you can change that and indicate that they took the ethics refresher. But that's only for folks who have that 12/31/24 due date. All right, understanding the training cycle in SETA, okay? So in 2024, when we launched the employee data, we had no idea, right, what training employees took in 2023. So we gave everyone a default date, which is what you saw on that last slide, that CETC due 12/31/2024, okay? So anyone that has that due date has a flexible training cycle, which means that they could either complete the CETC or the refresher for 2024, and you could just indicate that yourself. And then it sets their training cycle, okay? So depending on what that looks like, it would either look like the top half of that slide where you would see, like if you indicated that they took the CETC in 2024, then it's automatically going to make them due for the refresher in 2025, CETC again in 2026, and so on, okay? In contrast, they took the on-demand in 2024. It's going to set their training cycle to reflect that they took the on-demand in 2024, and now they're due for the CETC in 2025. That's how that works, okay? So that was only for folks who were existing employees when we launched the employee data back in June 2024. We can show you how to look for that, how to recognize that in the system. But for those folks who have their employee data uploaded in 2024, you have a flexible training cycle. You do not have to go back, and please do not go back and put in what training was completed in 2023, okay? We wanted to simplify it and have everyone start fresh in 2024, set their training cycle, let us know what training they took in 2024, and that way the records would be a lot more accurate moving forward, okay? We wanted to start fresh. Now, in 2025, there's not a lot of flexibility. So if you're a new hire in 2025, you have to take the CETC, then the refresher the following year, CETC refresher. That's how that goes, okay? Unless you're overdue, and then you have a little bit of flexibility there, okay? All right, so what you can and can't do. So you, as I mentioned before, in SETA, you can take live training every single year. You just have to indicate which training the employee took, and it would look like the top, okay? So if someone takes live training every single year, we see that with some of our larger agencies, it's the top row, okay? If they're following the normal training cycle, it's going to look like that middle row there, where it'll indicate that they completed the CETC, they're due for the refresher, so on and so forth. You'll see the alternating training every single year. So the one thing that you can't do is that an employee can't take 2 back-to-back refresher trainings, okay? So if you took the on-demand in 24, you can't take it again in 2025. You have to take live training. It's the only thing you can't do. So if you took the on-demand this year, if you're due to take it, you can't take it again next year, okay? And that's kind of what that bottom row is symbolizing there, all right? So once again, you can take live training every single year. That's fine. The system will accept that. You can do the traditional training schedule, live training on demand, live training on demand. The only thing you can't do, you can't have 2 back-to-back ethics refreshers recorded in the system. It's not going to let you do it. It won't even accept it, okay? So what do we have in development? So 2025 for us is going to be a year of reports. Those are our internal goals here. Right now we are testing, it's in production, it's not available to you yet, but it's in production. It's that monthly training tracker. So the purpose of this report is to help you easily identify in your agency who's due for training in a given month, okay? So you can select the year, 2025, you can select it either monthly or quarterly. If you select a month, you can select March as an example, and it'll tell you, it'll give you a comprehensive list of all of the employees who we identified are required to take training in March. So at some point in time, they were given a 90-day due date that fell in March, okay? So I have Becky, our new training associate, taking the lead on testing that for us. For those of you who may be interested in taking a sneak peek and taking a look at that data, send us an email. We're happy to export a spreadsheet so you can help us in our testing efforts. We're also working on a COELIG training completion report. We are hoping that this is going to be in our QA test environment within the next week or 2. This is going to fix that data gap that we have in the application. For those of you who are familiar with that managed function is only showing you right now who's due for the current calendar year. It's not showing you who completed in 2024. So that's going to fix that data gap for us. And it's also going to provide you with the information that you need for those employees who complete training with us, okay? We have a lot of folks who complete training, but for whatever reason, they're entering the wrong training information. And you're not able to see that those folks are March completed. So that will help with that as well. In the next couple of weeks, for those of you who are outliers, you'll be able to upload your HR rosters into the application. So that's what we're working on in the next couple of months. I'm going to hand it off to Tammy, who's going to walk us through what our training opportunities are here at COELIG.
Thank you, Marlena. I want to say Marlena just did an unbelievable job. I hope that you guys were all able to follow along. There was a lot of stuff there. And so with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the COELIG training opportunities for your employees, because we at COELIG here do offer live training opportunities. And so there's a few things we want to bring up. I know that all of you are getting in there with some questions with regards to SETA, and I just saw the comment that Sloan says, this is great. Know that in the future, these lunch and learns, these open office hours to some degree are going to help you with understanding what this data is, but this is the strong overview. Reminder that this is being recorded so that you can come back and view it again. So real quick, what we do know is that there are many people that need to register and get in training. And we also know that there are a lot of agencies that are struggling to get their employees trained. And so right now, COELIG in our training team, as small and mighty as we are doing a great job of offering live training. Right now we have 12 sessions scheduled in March. and we also have 12 sessions scheduled in April, and then we plan to amp up in May. And then, as Marlena said, in the summer, really do some outreach with some of those agencies that are struggling so that we can get you some maybe agency specific trainings and help get your employees trained. But if you want to have your employees training with us, which we would absolutely love to do, we'd love to get our training numbers up. We do have open sessions, like I said, 12 scheduled for the month of March. And our capacity on those is 400 people. We're getting about 200, 250 in average per class, but we can meet that capacity of 400. So please send your employees to the self-enrollment link, and that is what you're seeing on the slide here. Your employees can register, self-enroll through our website by clicking on CETC, and then the enrollment process only takes a few minutes. Slight hint, I'm going to give you guys a hint here. A lot of people struggle with finding their agency. And so sometimes it's best to just recommend they use a keyword. So if you are from ethics, then I simply would type in my agency section ethics, and the drop down menu will give us the option of finding your agency. That also tends to be the case for a lot of the SUNY and CUNYs. They're, typing in State University of New York and looking for those things. Type in the main agency or the main keyword, and that should drop down. If they are an OSC paid employee, or if they are part of the New York State payroll, they will have an employee number. So that's another area that you're really going to want to, and we got a recommendation yesterday from an AGU saying, if you could just remind your employees what their N numbers are. This is something that is on their pay stubs, within their payroll, and it's an area that they sometimes struggle in registering because they don't know their N number. So helping them identify that and let that information match up to the system, because again, you're going to want to be notified as the AGU that they completed this class, and so all this information needs to match up. So the best ways and that you can help your employees, not only in sharing the link to the class and self-enrollment page, but is also giving them the information they need to register. So what is the name of their agency? Do they have their employee number? Where they can find their employee number? And telling them to use their agency email address rather than a Gmail or a personal email address. And then I'll just, simply remind you that in terms of the class registration, if there's no employee data in the SETA system, which I know for a lot of agencies, there is no employee data. These individuals end up what we're calling right now as orphans. We don't have any place to place them. So they just kind of end up out there in the sphere, in the universe, that they've completed this course, but it does kind of create problems for you and you reporting your numbers, and us being able to report to you that they completed the course. And so I guess that's the best reminder for you all to get that data uploaded. I know Marlena was just very clear. We'll help you with those uploads. We'll help you get your employee data in there so that it's all matching up. Everything's going good. So in terms of class registration, this is what our class registration page looks like. Again, Marlena has pointed out, make sure that they're using and confirming their business email address and that it all matches up in the system. Again, just helping your employees with an understanding of where they can find their N number. If they don't have them and you're an agency that is an outlier, doesn't have N numbers, when they type that agency in, it will no longer have that red dot to require that N number. So I know that there's several agencies that don't have N numbers, and when they type in the appropriate agency, it will eliminate that as a required field. So they will select all or input all their information, and then click the find a training. And as you can see here, this is our March schedule that's listed, and they can select any class that is convenient for them to take. It is 2-hour training. It normally lasts about 2 hours via WebEx, and then they will be credited within 7 days of taking the class, and they can select anything they want. I should say here, because I'm not reading the slide, my apologies. Please message to your employees that if they need to cancel a class or they can't make it to the session, that they do not need to reschedule or notify us. They can simply go back into the class registration page, pick a new date and time using the self-enrollment portal. That is something they do not need to notify us about. We do get a lot of emails of people saying, I can't make it, something came up. Not necessary. They can go in and just pick a new date and time for that's convenient for them using the self-enrollment portal. I will also side note that unpaid board members of OSC agencies, or if you're paid by OSC but you have unpaid board members, for them to register, please contact us via our email, and we will enroll them ourselves. That's been an issue. So unpaid board members of OSC agencies, please contact us and we will get them enrolled. Some quick lessons learned from last year. We know right now that there is a grand number of people that need to get training. And again, we should be maximizing out our 400 enrollment capacity. There's 330,000 people in the state of New York that need to be trained in ethics training to some degree. So we don't want you to wait until Q4 to notify your employees that they need to take training. That's really, really important. Last December, Brianna and I were the only ones here, and I have to say that we were slammed with everyone saying, I'm due by 12/31/2024. We don't want your employees to panic, and we don't want and we don't want you to panic either, thinking that there's all these people at the end of the year that need to be need to be trained. So please help us maximize out that self-enrollment. Please help us do this throughout the year rather than waiting until Q4 to notify your employees that they need to take training. Right now, what we know is in February, and this is an estimated number to some degree, but it's pretty high, that there are 4,219 new employees that need to be trained. So they're overdue now, right? And then in March we have 2,800 right now listed as 2,800 new employees that need to be trained in live ethics training. And April we have 2,500. It does take time for them to get into the system if they're OSC. So again, encourage your employees to know their correct N number before enrolling them. And I know it does take time. So I know Annalise just put in there, it sometimes takes 3 months for them to appear. But get them in, as soon as they are in the system, as soon as you see them in the SETA system, if they're OSC, get them enrolled in a course. Make sure they know their N number and get them enrolled in a course. And then again, agency specific, hopefully returning in the summer, so that we'll get to work with some of you one-on-one, and perhaps set up some sessions that we can do group enrollment for all of your agency, or a large portion of your agency, so that we get people trained. Again, we don't want to wait, and let's make it a wonderful summer, right? We don't want to wait until next December. So now we're going to open it up for questions, suggestions for future forum topics. I love, and Brianna loves, when we're doing our CETC training, to use these emoticons and let us know that you're still engaged. If you have questions, I know that the chat is wide open, but we have a couple minutes, and so if you want to raise your hand, I know that Marlene is open to questions, and we are here. Again, the only thing I will say is please don't provide us with any specific employee data or anything that's necessarily confidential, as a reminder that this is being recorded.
Anybody have any questions? You guys had a million during Sloan.
I have a question. We have some instances where employees were employed with us, did the training, but they were not in the CETA system. And so when I tried to input the training date, the system says that I cannot input the date because it is 180 days before their new hire date or something like that. So can we somehow resolve that?
You know what, Marlena, I can hear you talking because you're in the office. but
Thank you,
there we
Megan. I
go.
got it. I got it. I was being super cautious, so I muted myself twice. So for anyone that has specific circumstances like the one that's being described right now, where you see a message, an error message where it's telling you, generally you can override that message by entering in a hire date in the application. So for those of you who have these kinds of issues in SETA, it's always helpful, and I'll always ask you to give me the employee name, okay? So give me an example of the employee name. I can take a look at it in the system, see what's going on, and then I can direct you accordingly. But that error message is generally reconciled if you update the employee profile and you enter in a hire date.
Let me ask one more question. How about the individuals who in 2023 did training, did the CETC, and then in 2024 they did the refresher, and the system is not accepting that either? So is that's something else that I would have to also reach out to you all specifically about?
Yeah, it looks like, I'm assuming that they either came on and off of the payroll. I'd have to look at their profile. So anybody that has a modified date, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I can show you where to look for that, that has a modified date of 6/12. When we first did the first employee upload from our OSD file, so for the very first time we uploaded 260,000 names, everyone was given an initial date of 6/12, just letting us know that they were part of that initial import group. So just send me an email to either myself personally, marlena.diaz@ethics.ny.gov. Give me the names and the examples that you have. I'll take a look at it, and I'll reach back out to you and let you know how we can reconcile that.
Thanks so much.
Leacha, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. You said, are you going to talk about FDS? Do you have a specific question? Do you want to unmute yourself?
I do. I realize you have not talked about FDS during this session, so I don't know if it's off topic, but we haven't gotten any email reminders from COELIG as to FDS reminding the appropriate employees to do their FDS form. I don't know if some are coming because I'm a new ethics officer here, but I'm just wondering if there is something that the ethics officers should be doing right now to remind the employees to complete their FDS.
Yeah, isn't it due by the end of March for the?
So let me ask you something. Where are you? What agency are you?
The IOLA fund. We have 8 employees, and 3 of them are required to do the FDS, and we also have a board as well.
So for new employees that are coming on, or new filers that come after the May 15th is the due date for most people, unless you're SUNY or CUNY. If you're coming on after that date, or it's the first 30 days you're supposed to do it, but we send out an automated notice. It's generally around April 15th. So not to worry for everyone who's already been filing. It's going to come in the next few weeks. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay. Thank you. I was just making sure we didn't miss anything. Thank you.
Nope. And it comes right to them. If you
Okay.
don't, and if they don't get anything, let us know.
It's Annalise. I have a question. I can't figure out how to raise my hand, so I'm just gonna rudely butt in. I'm sorry. I am SUNY, but I know that there are SUNY employees who have to file this time of year. And
Right.
I normally get a notification, and I haven't gotten anything, to update my FDS, which I've tried to keep up to date, but I haven't gotten any kind of notification.
Again, so if you're on the May 15th, they come out around April 15th to everybody saying, hey, it's time to file. And
No, but the notification that comes to me to update what's in FDS, it's usually by the end of March, and I haven't gotten
Oh, your filer list?
Correct, yeah.
Let me
Haven't
write
gotten
you down.
anything.
Have you ever talked with Melinda Funk before, our deputy director?
No.
All right. I will put her email in the chat, okay? And you can ask her about that.
Okay, I have another question on the when we do our monthly update. I've just always been putting that people have done CETC. I didn't know that there were different codes for online training versus live. So everybody is in there is just doing training, period. What are the codes that we should be using?
For the mass upload, are you using the
No.
spreadsheet? If you're
No.
using the spreadsheet,
Yes, I'm using a spreadsheet, but I've just been putting in CETC and nobody has ever asked me to clarify that.
okay, so there's two codes. So it's either going to be CETC if they took that live ethics training, and what we mean by live is can either be in person or handled
Or remote.
remotely like we're doing right now, okay? Or the on-demand, which is the one that's available in SLIM. So if it's the on-demand, you would select ethics refresher if you're just manually updating them. If you're using one of our training spreadsheets to kind of bulk upload all that information at one time, the code would be OER, but we can, we can tackle that offline if you'd like. You can send me an email or send it to the COELIG Education shared inbox. We're going to be going through the chat as well and looking to see who's asked us for more clarification so we can handle it that way. But yeah.
So OER means online training. We don't use SLIM, so it's the online training that I've put together with my own voiceover, et cetera. I would put OER if people are doing that.
If you're using the spreadsheet, yes.
Okay, so all my data is wrong, basically, for anybody who's been doing online training. You can pretend you didn't.
Well, we can take a look at it if you have a spreadsheet. Are you deciphering that on your own spreadsheet? Like, do you know who took what on your own spreadsheet?
Well, I would have to go back through all of my records for last year to see who did which, because we've offered both.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess we can tackle this offline.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question.
Marlena, I know that you answered Jessica's question with regards to the manage function, but maybe we want to mention it to the group that, our last training, we were very adamant that the manage button was our friend, and now that stance has changed a little bit, and I wanted to know if you wanted to touch base on it.
Manage button.
Yes, I can. So for those of you who are familiar with the manage button, I think my friend Rich from Downstate is on here. Hey, Rich. Some of you are very familiar with the manage button. My friend Jessica, I think you're on here too. I've been chatting with you on and off. So the manage function, I don't want to put one up on the screen because we want to provide this online, and I don't want all the employee ID numbers up there. So the manage button, if you're using that, it's only showing you who's due for the current calendar year, okay? So, and I know a lot of you are like, I have no idea who completed in 2024. We know that's a problem. That's why we're handling it via a report that we're hoping will be available in QA recently. So if you're using the manage button, we have to all retrain ourselves for now. The manage button is showing you who is due for the current calendar year, whether they have that 12/31 or they're a new hire and they have a due date outside of that 12/31, and who completed for the 2025, okay? So it's helping you track folks for the current calendar year. It's not going to help you figure out who completed in 2024, okay? Yes, Annalise, the manage function is in SETA.
Okay, and I've put in here a couple of times. I seem to have lost my SETA access, so because I was trying to follow along and I can't even open SETA now. I don't know what happened.
At least I'm gonna, you can certainly send us an email and we can take care of that, but I'm gonna say it's, because you are listed as an agency user, I did check that, that it's the username that you're using. Just make sure that you can get into ny.gov using the username that you provided us.
We don't use ny.gov.
Well, you do to get into SETA.
We do not use ny.gov here. We do everything through single sign-on. That's how I've done it for the last year. That's how we access everything here. I can't get into the state portal without single sign-on.
We'll set up a WebEx with you, and that way you can share our screen, because if you had access to SETA at some point in time, and it sounds like you did, you gave us, you gave us your ny.gov ID. So no one can have access to SETA unless they have an ny.gov ID. It's kind of like all of the other statewide applications, whether it's DMV, the health portal, OSC, SLIMS, all of the state applications live behind that ny.gov. So that's what we would need to figure out. A lot of SUNY CUNY folks, they have their own portal, but it's still connected to ny.gov. It's still ny.gov. We just need to make sure that we have your accurate credentials so that we can link you, and that way you can see that statewide ethics training report and button come back up for you.
Okay, so and this, I don't know, when I try to go into ny.gov as a New York State resident, I have a different ID and it's constantly, I get messed up.
And hi, Annalise. I am just going to pop in. It does appear that your status in the system, you were listed as inactive, which would be why you would be unable to view that application. So I did just go in and change your status to active. If you go ahead and refresh, that should be all set for you.
Okay, let me check. Inactive, that's different. Okay. I've never left. Let me try this again.
I'm gonna go back. Somebody asked, this is Megan. Where is it? Monica, my friend Monica Marsh, who I haven't talked to in a while. Has COELIG eliminated the CETC training for unpaid per diems? And I haven't been in our SharePoint in a while. Is it still up there, guys? In there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So Monica, if you're in SharePoint, it's in there, okay?
And to answer a lot of the questions that I keep seeing, so no training and tracking should be happening in FDS, okay? Because the entire mandate applies to everyone now, we took it out of FDS. You may still see on certain FDS filers due dates for training. We did ask our ITS team to hide those. However, you know, it takes time on the priority schedule, since our ITS team not only manages SETA, the training application, they also manage the lobby application and FDS. So sometimes priorities need to get reshifted. So all training and tracking for any class of employee needs to happen in SETA. You can completely ignore all of the training in FDS. Nothing should happen training-wise in FDS, okay? The only reason why it was in FDS, it was because it was the only way for us to know who the FDS filers were, since, you know, it's the responsibility of the agency to inform COELIG who FDS filers are. So that's the only reason why it was there. But all training and tracking needs to happen in SETA. Do not do any training and tracking in FDS, okay?
I have a quick question. Hello?
Sure. Before I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to answer Melissa's question. Everybody, unpaid per diem officers, everybody should be going into SETA. Okay, I'm sorry, whoever, is that Pearl?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi. As an outlier agency for employees that have left the company or the organization, what do we because I've been asking for waivers for training, but do we mark them as inactive, or do we delete the entry, the employee entry in SETA?
So I will say this is just a quick information for those, and this is going to also be another one of our tips and tricks. So thank you for bringing this up. For folks who are using the extension request or the waiver function, this won't specifically address your question, but I'll get to it. Okay. To answer your question, when it comes to waivers, don't delete the folks, right? I know that they recently met our executive staff, our commission board. They have been reviewing those waiver requests, and yours is included in that as well. So we should hopefully have some updates, but I know that it was in discussion at our last commission meeting. We have another commission meeting coming up in a week, but you should not be using the extension for everyone else. You should not be using the extensions or the waiver request to inform us that someone's left state service, and to do it any type of that way, right? So the only time you should be using an extension is someone's going out on some type of leave, and you just want to change their due date for whatever reason, okay, that's when you use the extension request. When it comes to waivers, so if you want to waive a specific class of employees, I wouldn't use the waiver function for that. Reach out to Megan, reach out to guidance, and they can direct you a more efficient way of doing that.
And actually, I told Sloan to call me about waivers, but I can say this to you all generally, that our executive staff has been requiring somewhat lengthy memos regarding you need to tell us if it's, for example, a class of employees, if let's say you're a hospital and the clinical staff, you want all your clinical staff not to have to do it. You need to say, it's because they're on the floor treating patients and the overtime issues. You have to be very specific as to all the particular issues as to why those people may need a waiver.
So we can send an email to the COELIG email about waivers. I'm thinking about the student assistants. We had 680 employees added as student assistants. Some of them, they're put on the payroll for the whole year, but some of them only work like 3 hours in October and they don't work again. And I have no way of knowing.
Right. So I'm putting my email in, and it can come to me first, and then I'll funnel it to our director.
Megan, okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as an
I just have a
outlier,
quick follow-up on that. For those employees, for those student assistants that you just mentioned, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who posed the question. Are you paid by OSC? Do your folks have N numbers?
Yes. Well, I
Okay,
don't know. I'm not sure about our student assistants. I assume they do because they are in our HR system, but we don't manage them out of the HR office. They're strictly managed through payroll. And like I said, payroll just says, okay, we're going to have all these employees working at some point this academic year. They put them in the system with a term date of, I think it's like May 23rd, but they might actually work, 3 hours in October and they never work again. So, the idea of training them, I don't know.
So I will say this, I think we're going to have a joint call. So you're going to have to tackle it on the legal guidance side with Megan, but we'll also have to have a conversation on the data side of it because we do use the OSC file. I would recommend that we have a call. Whoever we need to jump on can jump on, because let's say the commission says, fine, you don't have to train those people. Okay, let's go that pathway. And they say, that's fine, you don't have to train them. Because we utilize the OSC file, we would have to then set something up with OSC, so it's easy for us to identify via a special agency code or agency ID who we need to exclude. So to give you an example, if your agency ID in OSC is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm just throwing that out there, okay? It's going to include all of your employees, folks that need to get training and folks that you're telling us should not get trained and that may have their waiver approved. Okay, they're all going to be in the system. We have to figure out a way with cooperation with your HR team and with OSC, because you folks utilize OSC for your payroll.
Right. So
I
guess I would need to see, like, what is the format that you get the data in? Because I'm sure there is either a job code or a job title where we could say, just exclude these. Because everybody
we
has
don't
some
get job codes or job titles. We don't get any of that. The only thing that we get is your agency ID number. And the employee ID and their first and last name. They do not share with us title codes or anything like that. I will tell you that. They don't share that with us.
Okay, because we don't manage them in the HR department. I don't know who they are.
Sorry, so I don't think I got clarified. I mean, thanks for clarifying the functionality of the waiver and the extension requests, but if employee has left the organization, as an outlier, do we mark them as inactive or do we?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
In that case, yes. 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 If they have left the organization, you can just go into their employee profile and just change their status to inactive. You don't have to do anything in the waiver to indicate that. You can just go directly to their profile and mark them inactive if you are an outlier. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Would you continuing with that, Marlena, if they're
an outlier and we mark them inactive, how do we bring them back if they retire and then come back 2 months from now as like a consultant? How do you bring
Great
them
question.
back?
Great question. So right now, in the current development phase that we're in SETA, we, COELIG, can only see the inactive employees. We should be pushing out some new changes in the next couple of weeks. I'm just waiting for a launch date from our ITS team. And I believe at that point, you will be able to see your list of inactive employees in your agency profile. Because right now, the only folks that can see them is us. You'll be able to see that. I don't believe, though, you will be able to make them active. That's still something that you'll have to notify us for, and we can make that switch for you. But the big change there will be that you will have access to folks who are inactive and be able to identify who they were, and that way we can mark them active for you until we do the next set of builds.
All right, thanks.
Hi,
Marlena?
this is Jessica. Oh,
There
sorry.
we go. I'm hoping it was Jessica. Is this Jessica Morak?
Yes.
And good. Go ahead and ask Marlena your question because some other people asked the same question.
What do we do about January, February, and March monthly statistics until the new features available, since the manage function isn't giving the data we need?
If you have specific agencies, Jess, I know I sent you a couple. I think I sent you some of the stats for one of your, I know that you manage several. So if you need them for all of them, you'll just need to let me know. And I'll ask my ITS guy if he can just pull those figures for you in the interim.
Okay, thanks.
I have another question, but it's not about CETA. It's about the dashboard. How come you can't go back to the normal dashboard and go from CETA and then go back into the FDS site?
Because they're two different applications.
But you choose them when you log in.
Right.
So you have to log out to go back into the other one?
You have to open up a new tab and go back to ny.gov and then select FDS. You can have both of the applications on separate tabs or separate windows in your browser, but you can't go back.
Yeah.
And then you can't go back and then go, oh, I want to go to FDS now. It doesn't work that way. You can have all of the applications open at one time. You just need to have them on separate windows or separate tabs in your browser.
I had a question.
That's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Same type of issue. When I went to the list of trainings that to the training site, I'm an outlier, so I don't think it's CETA. So first, it just gives me a list of employees, but if I want to sort it with just see the date that they were trained, it won't let me do it. So I have to click on each employee. Is there a way
That's
to
kind of
do
what we were. Yep, 100%. That's kind of what we were touching on before. That's what we're managing through a report. That report should be available, I want to say, in the next couple of weeks, because that manage function, that screen that we're all accustomed to, is only showing you information for the current calendar year. It's not showing you, it can't let you go back in time, if that makes sense. So it's not showing you 2024, it's only showing you who's due and completed in 2025. But in order to manage that data gap, we're handling it through a report. So you'd be able to go to the report section in SETA and be able to view who completed within a given time period.
So even for today, like 2025, I can't see all the due dates. So if everybody says due December 31st, 2025, that would be fine. It would tell me that all the employees are trained, but there's no way to sort it. So I had to click on each one to make sure that their due date is set as December 2025.
What's your agency?
Liquidation Bureau. So I'm the outlier. So we're not in CETA, and I don't have the management function.
You have, if you're Liquidation Bureau, if you're Agency 117, you have 102 employees that that I can see that are in the system. And I'm showing, let me see, I'll email you.
But can I, yeah, like exactly what you're doing, I'm not able to do it, right? Just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, who am I talking to?
It's Eugen.
Hi, Eugen. Yeah, you have access. I see you as a contact.
Yeah, no, but I see it, but I have to click on each employee. I can't just say, show me everybody's due date. So I could just like,
Even
have
if
a
you hit
list.
the manage button on your on your agency profile, you're
I
not
don't
able
think
to.
I have the manage function because I'm an outlier.
You do have the manage function. You have 102 employees in here.
So manage function I have? Okay, I'll look at it. I didn't see it. And another thing is because I think I talked to you about it, they require employee ID. It was not loaded. So if I want to delete or like remove an employee as from that list, it won't let me do it. Because
It won't let you do what? Remove an employee?
yes, because they left.
Okay, I will show you. Here, I'm putting my email in the chat. Email me and we'll just hop on a WebEx call. I'll schedule a time that works for the both of us, and then I'll just show you what I'm looking at, and then it'll hopefully make more sense.
Okay. No, we had this conversation before we did the WebEx thing, and then you said that was an issue, and it was like because I was an outlier. But okay, I'll email you again.
Going once, going twice.
I have a question on the outlier agencies for the roster, the monthly training roster. Is that a request of COELIG to submit that or a requirement somewhere?
It's not in statute, but it is, if that's what you're asking.
Right. So if we're tracking it internally and I'm reporting monthly the data, the aggregate data, am I fine?
I don't know how to answer that. Is there an issue with providing us with the individual data?
I can't point to where it's required, so the requirement to report the monthly data is fine. But I just want to make sure that if there's somewhere where it says that we should be submitting it rather than tracking it internally, that I raise that to who needs to.
It's totally different here. Nothing. Hey, it's so
Move back corner for a second.
Chrissy. And just ask her, just by any chance, did you do some kind of?
So I think somebody might be unmuted.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, you
Just came in my office. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So this is what, so with regards to the employee data, right? We hear this a lot. That is how our commission and our board interpret in Executive Law 94 the administration of the training program, right? So they interpret that in terms of two ways. One, the monthly stats, and two, having access and being able to view and ensure that all of the employees have those completion dates in the system. That is how they interpret that. So obviously, if you disagree with that interpretation, then the best place to start would be with our executive director, would be to start with, our general counsel, our commission board, and figuring out how you can open up those lines of communication. But that is how our board and our commission interpret administration of the training program, which we are responsible for. So for today's conversation, is just submitting monthly stats okay? No, we need both. That's our stance.
Do you have guidance somewhere available on that, or is that just verbal at this point?
At this point, it's verbal, correct.
Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Go ahead.
So my question is, if for SETA, if we have employees that they have a training date in 2025, but they were trained in 2024, it's showing up that they're trained, but obviously they still need to be trained in 2025, correct? 'Cause
Right.
it's
So,
year-
you know, it's the live online, or you could always do live. So it's, you know, every year.
All right, but I'm just saying, like, it's showing up in SETA as that these employees are trained, and it's currently 2025, and they're really not trained for 2025. They were trained in 2024, but it's showing up as, you know, I have 105 employees, and I have 7 of them that are currently trained, but they still need to be trained this year. Correct?
Karen, you're from IG?
Yes.
We can take a look at that.
And
Okay.
I did already look at it, Karen. This is Tammy. I just want to let
Hi,
you know.
Tammy.
Yeah, I did look at your agency. There are employees that were meant to be trained in 2024, so they have met their 2024 compliance for training in 2024. You only have one employee that's been trained in 2025, and the rest are due.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's what I that's what I thought. All right, but when, like I said, when I saw that the
Mm-hmm.
it says I have 7 trained, and I was like, no, I don't really.
Well,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
had 6 that were trained in 2024 and 1 that's been trained in 2025.
Right, right. Okay. All right, I just want to clarify that.
Yep, I see.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
Anyone else?
We will say our intentions are to be offering these far more often, and hopefully all of those people that were in participation today with great questions for us. We have recorded your questions as well, and we'll meet with those individual people who had those very specific questions. But I want to thank you all for being here today. I strongly encourage you, if you can, to you know, come into our coming soon SETA 101. We know that this is important when we're going to try to review it live with you and have some open discussions so all of you can attend and learn more, and we can give you the individual attention that you deserve in this kind of setting, because we know the common issues are common issues amongst you all. So hopefully for the people that are new today, new to being an AGU, that you learned something, you got an aha moment. And again, we thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to our COELIG education inbox. And again, thank you all for being here.
One last, sorry, Tammy, one last thing for the good of the order here. I forgot to mention this. If you're brand new and you haven't trained this before, one of the really good ways is to sign up for one of our classes and come watch us do it. We have a good time, Tammy and I and Becky and Brianna, didn't forget Brianna. And so sign up for one of ours if you want to learn how to train at the CETC.
And get your employees in there. Get them registered. We're available. We want to fill up those classes. So go ahead and fill up those classes, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.